you may have heard we have an election coming up, November the 8th. So I want to take this opportunity to review some of the issues that you should be concerned about. Now, mind you, there'll be some folks, I'm sure, not you, but some folks saying, oh, that priest got involved in politics again. Well, yes, this priest does get involved in politics. You know why? Because your immortal souls are depending upon who is in office and what we do as a nation, and also our physical well-being depends on who we elect to office. Therefore, we are going to talk about issues. Let me just say this as a preface. Some of you may have heard of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was a Lutheran pastor during the time of the Nazi occupation in Germany. And Pastor Bonhoeffer, I don't have time to go into everything that he did, but what he did was he spoke against the Nazi regime. Most of the pastors in Germany did not speak against the Nazi regime. And because the pastors didn't speak up, many innocent people were murdered, including 6 million Jews. And so Pastor Bonhoeffer said that the Christian is called to address the issues of the day that have an impact on human beings. He sacrificed his life in the end. He was hanged by the Nazis right as World War II was coming to a conclusion. All right, so what are some of the issues that we have to be concerned about that I want you to pray over and think about before you vote on November the 8th? The first one is, it's a very local thing, but it's also national. It is the school boards. I want you to be sure who you are voting for our school boards. You know that the schools are places where young people have come under the influence of programs and people who are not always, shall I say, promoting the Christian ideal of human sexuality or any Christian concept of human sexuality. As a matter of fact, in many instances these days, perversion is being celebrated, and our schools, become a place where grooming takes place. Young people are influenced into sexuality that is not acceptable, not just for Christians, but not acceptable for good human behavior. School boards have a lot of power, a lot of influence. They affect generation after generation. We used to have a saying when I was teaching in high school many years ago, education touches the future. And the future, of course, what is? It's the young people, and we have an obligation to safeguard those young people against those influences which will endanger their immortal souls. And unfortunately today, even endangers their physical well-being. Know who the candidates are and vote accordingly to what their stances are on certain issues, especially when it comes to LGBTQ, critical race theory. Know who stands where. There are no excuses why we should have those programs in our schools that endanger our children. Number one. Number two, I want to talk to you about inflation. It's a big issue. It's a big issue. Now, there are some people who say, oh, there is no inflation. Let me tell you something, folks. There is inflation. You go shopping, don't you? There's inflation. Am I right or am I wrong? Go to the gas pump. There's inflation. But you know what? Most of us here, most of us, I could say, we're probably not starving because of inflation. But there are people who are having a very difficult time making ends meet. And I know those people. And many of them do have jobs. They have jobs. But there's not enough money to pay for the gas and for the children that you have a couple of boys at home and they eat. My gosh, you know, there's no end to what they can eat. You know what I'm talking about? And these people sometimes have to drive in from Immokalee. They drive in from Fort Myers, whatever's left of Fort Myers, just to have a job and then to try to make ends meet. And so there is inflation. You know, I used to buy this little instant coffee, and it used to be $6.99. It's now $9.99. And I'm one person. I have a cup a day. Imagine, you know, for a family. Inflation is an important issue. It affects human life. It affects, just as a matter of fact, the ability to eat and to put food on the table for a family. A nurse at the hospital told me, she says, Father, she said, between the rent, and I have 3 boys, and I'm a single mother. I can't make ends meet. Do you know what those guys eat? Yeah, I could imagine. I could imagine. So it is a problem. Pay attention to it. Don't blow it off and say it's not an issue for me. It is an issue for you and for thousands of people right here in Naples, which is an area compared to most a lot better off. All right? Imagine in the inner cities, those people who don't have money. What happens next? Crime. That's what happens next. Now, pay attention to the crime, too. The cities are filled with crime. I mean, we're sheltered here. We're sheltered. Thank God we're sheltered here. But every week I look and I see what happens in New York, and people slashed the subways in Chicago, people being shot and killed. What is going on in this country? We're in the Wild West. How do you have a civilized society like that where people are afraid to go anywhere anymore? People are being killed. Little children being shot in the streets. It's a big, big issue. Make sure you know who you're voting for. Make sure you know what they stand for. I'm talking about the border, too. It's an issue. It's an issue. And I'm not even going to go near, immigration. How do you see immigration? Should it be regulated? Should it not be regulated? Look, the border is a problem. And I'll tell you what the biggest problem is. It's not just people coming in illegally. It's fentanyl coming in. Fentanyl. We have lost nearly 80,000 young people or more this year already to fentanyl. And we're not guarding that border. In our own parish, I don't know how many young people I've buried because of fentanyl. 20s, 30s, 40s. And then people say to me, oh, he died of a heart attack. Let me tell you something. All farts like me die of heart attacks. Not 20-year-olds. Don't kid yourself. But it's coming in like crazy over that border. It's coming in from China down to South and Central America, through Mexico, and right here into this country. And we can't stop that. We have a shutdown for COVID. We could do that, can't we? Close down everything. But we can't close down that border to stop this fentanyl coming in. I'm at St. Matthew's house. I can't tell you what I see. I can't tell you what I see. I can't tell you about the hearts that are broken, about parents they lose a child to this terrible drug. It's so lethal, they just open up a body bag. When they get near it, the police keel over. That's how lethal this drug is. The border must be protected. And don't let anybody give you one of these reasons, well, you're just opposed to immigration. No, you're opposed to fentanyl. Let's start right there, okay? Last issue. This is an international issue, and I'm sure, most clergy wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, but I'm not most clergy, all right? Someday, maybe sooner rather than later, I'm going to stand before God. Say, God, look, I did the best I could, I'm trying to work my way into purgatory at the moment, so if you have some extra prayers, just say them for me to get into purgatory. This week coming up, All Souls, important. Pray for the souls in purgatory. So what am I going to talk to you about? Ukraine. Some people are itching for a war in Ukraine. This is a very, very dangerous situation. Last week, I had the opportunity to take part in a ceremony for those who received the Purple Heart. And they asked me to say a few words at the end. And I got up and I said, I hope that there is never again issued another Purple Heart medal. Never. We have no vital interest in Ukraine. Believe me, I feel very sorry for those people, but they're being killed by the Russians. They're not telling you how many thousands of Ukrainians are being killed, how many thousands of Russians are being killed. And for what purpose? For what purpose? Millions and millions of American dollars are being sent, billions of dollars are being spent over there. There's no accountability for it at all. When I spoke to some of the Ukrainians, they say to me, well, a lot of us are Russians. When I was over there, many of them said to me, well, we wouldn't mind being part of Russia again. I don't know. I don't like Vladimir Putin. Believe me, I don't like him. But I'm concerned about the carnage taking place over there. And then we have people telling us, well, the Russians might drop a dirty bomb. A dirty bomb is a conventional bomb with some radioactive material in it. And they would want to use this. This would be a provocation for nuclear war. That's all we need is a nuclear war. We can't afford that. Let's just look at what's happened to this country since World War II. Look what's happened. We won World War II. We did the right thing. We did the right thing, stopping the Nazis. Since then, we have not won any war. We got involved in different parts of the world, and nothing was resolved. North Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, that debacle in Afghanistan. And now we're going to go to Ukraine and get involved there, billions and billions of dollars. Now they tell me that 101st Airborne put 5,000 troops in Romania. For what? For what? I watched those caskets come back from Vietnam. Friends of mine were in some of them. Row after row of hearse coming down the avenue, young lives wasted. Yeah, I saw it. I saw it. Some of you did too. And many came back from those wars, all of those wars, maimed physically and mentally and spiritually. And what was gained by it? What was gained by it? It's the military-industrial complex that tries to keep itself lucrative for a certain group of people that think that they can control the rest of us and use us as fodder for their own ends. I don't even know what to believe about our government anymore. I don't know anymore. We got involved in Iraq, weapons of mass destruction. Where were they? Never found. Never found. And now we're going to put all our eggs in the basket of Vladimir Zelensky and Putin? For what? For what? I don't know what to believe anymore. Our own government telling us the Russians have done it. It's a Russian hoax. What is not a Russian hoax anymore? What is not the fault of Vladimir Putin anymore? I can't tell you. I'm not sure what the information that our own government is putting out. The Steele dossier, the Durham report. It's one bit of nonsense after the other, and we are in the dark. And now we're at a point where human lives are being wasted, and we're sending billions of dollars, unaccountable money, to a part of the world that we have no vital interest in. This election is very, very important. I don't know what's left. I don't know what's left. Education, the media. It seems that they're all trying to guide us in a way that is uncertain as to who we are anymore as American people. I don't know. Please, take this election seriously. It may be our last best hope of salvaging who America is, or what we are supposed to be. And know that the decisions that we make now, they touch the future. Not just us, but the children who are coming after us. God love you.